Welcome to the Oracle's Sanctum, a place where psychology meets spirituality, where the hidden truths of the human soul are revealed. Today we begin with one of Carl Jung's most unsettling discoveries, something so disturbing that he hesitated to publish it. Jung realized that empaths, those rare souls with extraordinary sensitivity, were not simply unlucky in attracting toxic people. They were being systematically hunted. He observed that certain individuals, what we can call energy parasites, unconsciously survive by feeding on the light of Empath. These people don't look like predators. They often appear wounded, vulnerable, even lovable. They come with sad stories, broken pasts, and deep emotions that make you want to heal them, but beneath the surface lies a hidden dynamic. They sense your light and draw near, not to give, but to consume. The most terrifying part is that the feeding is invisible. It feels like love, like connection, like intimacy. It disguises itself as trust, compassion, or even soul bonding. And yet, every interaction leaves the empath drained, confused, and doubting themselves. Jung discovered that this isn't random. Empaths are not chosen by accident. They are actively targeted. From across a room, these unconscious predators can sense who will give endlessly, who will absorb pain without question, who will carry emotions that don't belong to them. Empaths become magnets because of how they were forged. In chaotic childhoods, they learned to survive by reading every micro-expression, anticipating every shift, and absorbing unspoken emotions. That gift saved them as children, but as adults, it turns them into beacons for those whose inner flame has died. Modern science confirms what Jung saw. Empaths' mirror neurons fire more intensely. Their brains don't just notice emotions. They feel them as their own. And parasites know how to exploit this. They don't just stumble into your empathy. They trigger it on purpose. They tell stories in a way that makes you responsible. They mirror your depth while hiding their emptiness. They hook you by appearing broken, then keep you trapped by making your compassion their survival. But here's the cruelest twist. They convince you that exhaustion is proof of love, that your depletion is a sign of intimacy, that your pain is evidence of a deeper bond. And this is where the real danger begins. Because once you start believing that feeling drained is normal, you lose the ability to see what's truly happening. Jung called this the gaslight of the unconscious. When your own intuition is silenced, and you begin to doubt the very warnings your body is screaming at you. This is only the beginning of Jung's terrifying discovery. Because what happens after this stage is even darker. When empaths remain in this cycle too long, they don't just lose their energy. They begin to merge with the parasite's shadow. They start believing that their role in life is to give until nothing remains. And that is the true tragedy. In the next part, we'll explore how this plays out in real life, in romantic relationships, in family dynamics, and even in the workplace. And we'll expose how these invisible predators disguise themselves in the people closest to you. Stay with me, because the descent into the shadow has only just begun. When Jung looked closer, he realized that these patterns didn't stay in theory. They showed up in every corner of human life, disguised as ordinary relationships. In romance, in family ties, even in the workplace, the same invisible feeding was happening again and again. Take Sarah, for example. She met David at a spiritual retreat. He seemed deep, sensitive, and wounded in a way that spoke directly to her healing nature. He shared his traumas, his depression, his search for meaning. Sarah felt special, chosen, as if she was the one person who truly understood him. But within months, she began to notice something strange. She was always exhausted. David would call at odd hours with endless crises. He poured his pain into her for hours, but when she tried to share her struggles, he either dismissed them or redirected the conversation back to himself. Sarah's empathy had become his drug. Her emotional labor was his survival. When she finally began setting boundaries, his mask slipped. He accused her of being cold, uncaring, not the person he thought she was. In truth, she had stopped being his feeding source. This is how the romantic parasite operates. What begins as love quickly becomes extraction. What looks like intimacy turns into consumption. And the empath, trapped in compassion, mistakes being needed for being loved. But this isn't only about lovers. Michael's story reveals how the pattern shows up in family. His mother had always been emotionally intense. She would call him with one crisis after another, making him feel responsible for her happiness. If he didn't answer immediately, she would guilt him, accuse him of abandonment, sometimes even threaten self-harm. Jung would have recognized this as the archetype of the devouring mother, a parent who unconsciously feeds on her child's energy instead of nurturing it. Michael grew up believing that love meant sacrifice, that being a good son meant carrying her emotions. But when he began learning about energy parasitism, he realized his exhaustion wasn't proof of being ungrateful. It was evidence of being drained. Setting boundaries with his mother felt like betrayal, but it was actually survival. Even in the workplace, the parasite hides in plain sight. Lisa had a colleague who was always in crisis. This person monopolized team meetings with personal drama, sought her out for endless emotional support, and constantly turned their inability to cope into everyone else's emergency. They framed themselves as the sensitive one in a cold, corporate world, but in reality, they were projecting their own lack of regulation onto everyone else. Lisa's empathy made her the perfect target, but every encounter left her depleted. What looked like kindness on her part was actually unpaid emotional labor, and here lies Jung's most urgent warning. The longer you allow this dynamic to continue, the more you merge with the shadow of the parasite. You begin to mistake exhaustion for devotion, guilt for love, depletion for spirituality. You tell yourself that giving endlessly makes you a good partner, a loyal child, a caring friend. But in truth, it makes you a host, Jung wrote. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. For empaths, this means realizing that the shadow they must confront is not only out there in others, but also within themselves. The need to be needed, the addiction to fixing, the terror of abandonment so deep that they would rather be drained than be alone. The parasite survives because the empath cannot yet face their own shadow. And so the cycle continues. The more light you give, the darker their shadow grows. The more you try to heal them, the more broken they become. And the more you give away, the less of yourself remains. But Jung did not leave us without hope. He believed there was a way to break free, a way for empaths to protect their light without closing their hearts. He called it the path of individuation, becoming who you truly are instead of who others need you to be. In the next part, we'll reveal Jung's framework for protecting your sacred energy, what I call the light method. We'll uncover the levels of empath development and Jung's final warning, the terrifying truth about what happens when an empath awakens to their true power. Jung's greatest revelation was that the empath's journey is not about giving endlessly, but about becoming whole. He saw that many empaths were unconsciously enslaved by their own gift, mistaking sacrifice for love and exhaustion for virtue. The truth is far more powerful. Your energy is not meant to be wasted. It is meant to be guarded, honored, and directed with intention. The first key is awareness. Notice how your body feels after every interaction. Jung believed the unconscious always speaks first through sensation. When you leave a conversation feeling inspired, connected, or lighter, you have encountered genuine exchange. But when you leave drained, anxious, or guilty, you have encountered the shadow, someone feeding, consciously or not, on your light. The empath's awakening begins by trusting this inner signal. Your body is not betraying you. It is warning you. The second key is boundaries. For most empaths, this feels like the hardest step. Saying no feels cruel. Stepping back feels like abandonment. But in truth, boundaries are not punishments. They are the architecture of freedom. A boundary says, this is me and that is you. My energy is mine to give, not yours to take. Jung would have called this individuation, the process of defining who you are, separate from the projections of others. Boundaries, however, are only the beginning. The third key is reclamation. This is where the empath must face their own shadow, the part of them that clings to being needed, the part that equates worth with usefulness, the part that would rather be drained than be alone. Jung taught that enlightenment does not come by imagining light, but by making the darkness conscious. And so, the empath must confront this inner darkness, the addiction to fixing, the terror of rejection, the hidden pride in being the one who saves. Only then can the empath step into their true sovereignty. One practice that supports this transformation is what I call the light method. Each morning, imagine your energy as a radiant field surrounding your body, shimmering and strong. As you move through your day, notice whether people cause that light to expand or shrink. If it contracts, step back. If it expands, allow it. This simple practice builds inner authority. It teaches you that you are not powerless. You are the guardian of your own flame. Jung also spoke of levels in this awakening. The first level is unconscious empathy, where you absorb the world's emotions without realizing it. This is the stage of confusion, where you believe other people's pain is your own. The second level is conscious empathy, where you begin to see the pattern, to realize when you are being drained, yet still struggle to break free. The third level is sovereign empathy, where you no longer absorb unconsciously, but choose when and how to connect. At this stage, your gift becomes power. The parasite cannot feed because you are no longer blind. You have become the master of your own energy. But Jung offered a warning. The moment you rise into sovereignty, not everyone will remain by your side. Those who depended on your light may lash out, guilt you, or vanish from your life. This is the test of the empath's awakening. Will you cling to those who fed on you, or will you release them and step into freedom? The truth is simple. What leaves was never real love. What stays is what truly sees you. And so, the empath's journey ends not in despair, but in clarity. You were never meant to carry the world's suffering on your back. You were meant to live your own truth, to shine your own light, and in doing so, to awaken others through your example, not through your sacrifice. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is sacred. Carl Jung's most terrifying discovery was that there are forces, human and unseen, that feed on the sensitive. But his greatest gift was the reminder that no darkness can survive. Once you claim your light, thank you for walking this journey with me, here in the Oracle's Sanctum. Remember, your energy is sacred. Your light is sovereign, and your soul was never meant to be consumed. Until we meet again, guard your flame, trust your inner wisdom, and let your light guide you home.